Listen to the vibes.
Yes, absolutely. When you're older, like me, motion is lotion. So for anybody listening that is stiff like my husband and you get out of a chair and your knees crack, it's because you don't move enough. And my husband, the E word for him, exercise, might as well be the F word because he hates to exercise. So, yes, I know that according to the Bible, you can live to be 120 years old, and I don't want to be hobbling around. So, I teach yoga classes for myself and anybody else who wants to join me on burnalong.com. Well, let's see. You want me to inspire people with good things, and I have inspirational stories, I guess, starting from the first time my band opened up for Joan Jett in Boston. And I was 22, and I guess you called it new wave music at the time. I had a Les Paul guitar that I could sort of play, and it didn't matter if you could sing back then because, the other guitarist had a Marshall stack like Jimi Hendrix used to have, and it was always on 10. And between that and the drum cymbals, I actually lost my hearing. But anyway, it was a blast opening up for Joan Jett. I still remember her sneakers. And we toured New England. I had a song on the radio, WBCN Boston with Mark Parento. Actually went to a party with the Cars. Ooh. And yeah, that was like so awesome. But then, of course, in certain parties in this kind of environment, a lot of those white lines come around on the coffee tables, and they're free when you're in a band. And I didn't know how to say no. I loved the high and ended up becoming a drug addict. And actually, years later, I got burnt out. Joan Jett is still going. I fell into the party wagon and almost died of a drug overdose. So I never really called out to God, even though I was born Catholic and, you had to go to church on Sunday. But we did it because we were born into it. But believe me, when you're facing death, all of a sudden, I was calling out to the God that I never knew. Please, if you let me live, I promise I will serve you. That's what I said. And he answered me. So he let me live, and I started piecing my life back together and got on this trail of thinking, okay, well, I didn't really mean that I was going to serve God. I just kind of said it, because I was desperate. Those people that are listening and they make promises to their loved ones, but then they don't follow through. Naughty, naughty. But so I started doing the working thing, like I'm going to find my self-worth in my job. So I joined the post office as a letter carrier in 1984-ish, maybe, or was it 86? Whatever. But anyway, I love carrying the mail in Andover, Massachusetts. It was great because I'm one of these people that just likes, I'm a loner. I've always been a loner. Get out there in the snow and see the beautiful nature and sing and deliver the mail. And it's just so much fun. And that's what you have to do at first. And so I climbed my way up the corporate ladder and became a postmaster in 1990 on Bailey Island, Maine. It was a dream come true. But you know what? After all the hoopla and excitement of the job was over, I started drinking. I'm like, man, this sucks being on an island with all these people that have nothing to say except the same old, same old. But if you're listening and you live in Bailey Island, please don't be offended. That's just where I was at. So I tried joining a convent because I thought, you know what? I guess, it's time for me to cash in on my promise. I'm going to join a convent. So I had an interview at the Portland Catholic Diocese in Maine with Father Bob. I think he was like, I called him Father Blob because he was 300 pounds. And so during the interview, he asked me, do you have any questions for me, with a stern face like Catholic seriousness? And I said, and I was sitting in my little cane chair, a lot smaller than I am right now, but yes, I just want to know, like, why are there no female priests? Oh, he got so angry at me. He shot up out of his chair. He towered over me and he said, before you make a lifetime commitment at something you obviously know little about, I suggest you go home and read your Bible, little girl. He showed me to the big wooden front door. And there I stood on the granite steps at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, shaking my fist at God because Catholics think the priests are like equal to God. And I said, I'll have nothing more to do with you. And so I moved to Nashville as a musician and created a blues band. I was sorry. People said, wow, you really sing like you mean it, the blues. Oh, yes, I said. I was depressed, like Peggy Lee song. Is that all there is? If that's all there is. If that's all there is, my friend, then let's keep dancing. Let's bring out the booze and have a ball. If that's all there is. That's what I was thinking. Is this all there is to life? Seriously? Okay, so I got together a blues band, joined the best unsigned blues band in Nashville, Tennessee in 95. And out of 16 bands, my band placed third after only being in Nashville for 7 months. So I thought, whoa, this is promising. Maybe I'm really going to make it in music because that's what I wanted to do when I was 22 until the drugs set in. But guess what? After we won the contest, the same thing happened. I thought, oh, is this all there is to life? It was like this big crash after an exciting party. Maybe some people listening, after they get married, they think they're going to live happily ever after. And then they find out after the love wears off, oh man, I thought this was going to make me happy. So I went to a psychologist because I thought, I don't want to live. That's how bad it was. When I woke up in the morning, I didn't know how long I was going to be depressed. It was like this black cloud followed me around. I didn't want to wake up in the morning because I didn't know how long it was going to last. It kept going longer, 1 day, and then I'd get over it. 2 days, 3 days, then 4 days. And then I don't want to get out of bed anymore. I'm going to have to do something about this. I don't have the courage to take my life. So I guess I'll go to the doctors. And they gave me a paper and pencil test for depression. And I took the test and they said, Deborah, I'm sorry, but you're not depressed. I said, are you kidding me? I don't want to wake up in the morning. Everything is awful. My life is going nowhere. I'm not happy. Nothing makes me happy. I thought my job, I thought my church, I thought my boyfriend, I thought this, I thought a vacation, I thought things, I thought money, nothing. What's wrong with me? He said, well, I'm sorry. I asked him for some drugs. I said, can you give me a prescription? No, I'm sorry. You don't test for depression. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I come from the North where Catholicism reigns. I'm down in Nashville. Let me go check out some Pentecostal churches. Woo! Well, if you're a Catholic, for any of those people that are, your hands which fold them, the fingertips go as far as under your chin, but never higher. And so when you go in the Pentecostal church, people start raising their hands. And it was so hard for me to do. I felt like I was chained. I had to bust through the oppression of not being able to raise my hands. And so it was liberating in a way. And I learned a lot about, the New Testament, I guess you call it, because the Catholics at that time, it was pre-Vatican II. So only the priests read the Bible. You listened, but you didn't read the Bible really yourself because you weren't capable of it. And so anyway, I'm reading the Bible. I actually took a trip in 99 to Israel to learn about Jesus. Well, when I came back from Israel, I found out Jesus was a Jew. I'm like, wait a minute, nobody told me that. Jesus was a Jew. All the disciples were Jewish except for one, I think Luke, maybe the Dr. Luke, he might have been a Gentile. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Christianity is not exactly right. It's one of them man-made doctrines. Please don't get upset with me if you're Christian. I'm just talking about my trip. And so when I came back from Israel, I started studying the book that Jesus taught, the Torah. Whoa, talk about nuggets, spiritual truth, power, life. Oh, I'm telling you, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Honest to God. I started dreaming music and started writing songs and learning Hebrew. And then you get into mysticism with Judaism. And you start learning about using your voice to become higher in elevation. Because why? The feminine aspect of God, aka Shekhinah, inhabits your vocal cords when you sing from your soul. And it's transforming. So if you go into a church, I'm closing now so you can ask me a question. When you go into a church or a synagogue and you sing, which is what God likes to sing, and you come out after the service and you're the same person, and the first things out of your mouth are, what's for lunch? Or, because they do the potluck and the oneg, then you need to sing a little longer. Because the only thing you really want to talk about when you go into church, you just, it's normal to talk about yourself. Hey, did you have a good week? How you doing? All this stuff. But all of a sudden your conversation turns from each other to God. Whoa. Actually, he hears you. He never sleeps or slumbers. Amazing. When you have to have faith. So if you don't believe this and you're listening to me and you think, man, what a crock of what, then ask God for the faith to believe. You have to believe to experience a higher elevation. So, in a nutshell, yes, you can have an experience with Jimi Hendrix, because after all, Jimi Hendrix gives you the ultimate experience, and I have experienced that many times. But you can continue to get a higher experience. I wanna take you higher. Boom chakalaka, boom chakalaka. Yes, there is a higher, most high God, and that is why I'm alive today. And the joy of God fills me with strength. So that's my story. I believe that all people are equal. I'm one of them old hippies from the 60s, peace and love and flower power. So, even though the facts that I present in my book, Jewish Palestine, Arab Palestine, a history of conflict, it's not picking on any particular group, but it's stating the documented historical facts of the origins of the land of Palestine. It used to be called British Palestine. And a lot of people don't know the facts about that because the documents were hidden by the British government and in the UK archives. They were finally discovered, I think, in 2022 in a documentary that I would highly recommend if you want to go down that road, is called A Birth of Conflict. It was released in 2022. When I saw that documentary series, there's 3 videos, and then after October 7th massacre in 2023 in Israel, I thought, I've got so much information, I'm busting a gut. I need to put it in a book to help people so it's easy to read, because I was confused before I learned all this stuff. I thought, man, why are those Israelis fighting with the Palestinians? I don't get it. I really don't get it. You hear too many stories. History books are biased depending on who wrote the story. For example, I'm in America, right? And all of us in elementary school that I've been to, oh, we heard about the nasty Native American and Indians, and that's why we had to wipe them out because they were this and that and the other. You know, that's not true. The Native Americans helped us, the first colonial people that came here. If it wasn't for the Native Americans, those people from England would have died. But you don't hear that in the history books. You have to dig. So all I'm saying is dig this book. You can get it on Amazon.com, and it's just the facts, ma'am. You know, what TV show is that used to say, just the facts, ma'am? It's just the facts. I'm laying it out for you, and you can come to your own conclusion. But you know what? Even our politicians need to read this book because they just don't know the whole story. It's a piece of the pie. It's not the whole enchilada.
And I think it was Dragnet.
Yes, you win the gold star today, Coyote. By the way, I was a public high school teacher also, and in my after I went to Nashville, and I thought I was too old to be a. I had an interview with an A&R guy back in the Nashville story, and he liked my music, but he wanted somebody else to record it, and he's like looking at his Rolodex. I'm like, you know, at the time before, I think it was CDs at that time, we were just finishing up with cassettes. I'm sitting there nervous as all heck because I want to get signed by a record label. And this guy's looking through his Rolodex. He says, what do you think about Twyla Paris? And I'm thinking, man, she's wimpy. You know, like I wouldn't want her singing my songs. And then he said, well, what about Margaret Becker? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, she's a rocker. But I thought, you know, I finally had the guts because I'm sitting there getting mad. I said, what about me? Oh, he had only looked at me from a profile view. He didn't even look at me when he talked to me. That's how rude he was. But he just turned around when I said that. What about me? He said, oh, it takes years of grooming in order for you to get signed. I said, well, I just quit my job with the post office. Here I am. He said, no, you don't understand. You know, the overnight success does not happen. Somebody that gets signed, it takes a long time before they finally reach the limelight. And I insisted, here I am. I gave up everything to be in Nashville, Music City, USA. And he finally looked me in the eye and he said, you're too old. Nobody's going to sign you. That's why we're looking for somebody else to sing your music. I was hiding my age. I thought I faked him, but he figured out I was at that time in my 40s, I guess. Oh my God, he crushed me. So I went to college and finished my degree because I was in music school, and that's another story, but I dropped out as soon as I could play 1-4-5 chords and got into a rock band. But so I had to finish my degree. I thought, what can I do at my age now? I'm never going to have my music dream. And I thought, I'll go to school, I'll be a teacher. You know, teachers come at any age. So I graduated from TTU in Tennessee in 2005 at the age of 50 and spent the next 10 years in purgatory. For those Catholics that know what that means, I ended up with PTSD triggers. And my principal on my 10th year as a teacher took me in his office and said, Miss so-and-so, because at the time I was not married. He says, I need to talk to you. I said, you know, I was nervous as hell about losing my job because I needed my job to live. He said, you know what? I've been watching you and I know what your problem is. I said, oh, what is that? He said, you know, you have PTSD. I said, oh my God, I was treated for that, for emotional and sexual abuse as a child. I went to counseling for that, but I didn't know that even though you go for counseling, there's triggers, and the foul mouth in the classroom and the student abuse set me off. I was triggered. But he said, this is at the time that they do the annual review for teachers to tell you whether or not you're coming back the next year. He said, I've got something for you. He said, most of my teachers are on antidepressants And I promise you, Miss So-and-so, if you take antidepressants, nothing will bother you. And when he said that, I already went down the drug road. I told you the story. I'm not going to go back there. I turned in my resignation papers. I said, I'm sorry. I cannot take drugs to keep my job. And that's when I became a yoga teacher to fix myself. And then I can start helping other people like me that are plain old miserable or creak and crack when they get out of a chair or just need some kind of inspiration. You know, if you meditate and you do it the right way, not you don't
Yep.
have like this thing doesn't come into your mind when you don't empty your mind when you meditate. You think on one thought and allow the breath work to help you to open up those parts of your body that have shut down because of stress. So I am happiest I've ever been in my life. I met my husband when I was 62, and in November, I'm going to celebrate my 70th birthday, and I'm just beginning to live.
Wow. You know, you talked about the sexual abuse. I've talked about that on here before. I was molested as a child,
Oh, sorry. Oh,
and when it's in my late 30s, I want to say it finally caught up to me.
yes, same here. Same here. I had a flashback of the actual
Hmm.
event with all the feelings that came with it.
Yep. I
And
ended
I
up in
never
the hospital.
really,
Hmm. And,
wow.
and they put me on all those drugs, and you're looking at an addict just as well. So I actually met someone who encouraged me to get into meditation, and
Yes,
I'm not a doctor, so consult with your doctor. This is
right.
just my journey. I got into meditation. I got off all those drugs,
Yes,
and I still have triggers from time to time,
yes,
but the
yes.
meditation has helped me more than any drug ever did.
Ah, praise God. Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. And sorry that happened to you and to me. And, my stepfather approached me. I was the oldest of seven. So he approached me one summer night on the screen porch where I was sleeping and drunk as a skunk as usual. And I had to make a decision whether I wanted to tell my mother at that point because I knew if I said anything to her that we'd probably end up. She always said if it wasn't for the stepfather, we'd end up in a foster home. So I kept it to myself and buried it. I buried it so deeply that I did not remember it until, like you said, I was in my 30s. I had a car accident and suffered whiplash. And so I was wearing the cervical collar walking down the street one day with my Sony Walkman. And all of a sudden, it was like I was in that place as a 13-year-old again with all of those emotions. And I panicked. Of course, you go into panic. And I tried to stuff it back in and it wouldn't go in. And panic attacks, never had them until this flashback and had to go into counseling. And I asked the therapist, why, after all this time, am I having a recollection of something that happened to me when I was 13? And she said, well, you weren't strong enough to face it until now. And now it's time to do the work.
Mm.
And it is work. And the book that I give all the credit to, there's this book called Courage to Heal. And that I had a lot of homework at home and a couple years of counseling and got me to a better place. But like you said, the meditation, uh, and we use meditation on Psalms, from scripture and doing yoga with the meditation to think about not only the peace in your mind, but to reconnect the mind with the body and the soul. Because some people, like myself, when you're molested, you disassociate. And, some people, when they're being molested, they actually leave their body and can watch what's happening to them from the ceiling, let's say. You actually leave your body to survive. And so yoga is a good thing. I'm not talking about Kundalini because that's spiritual, demonic. It can get into the demonic, and I don't want to go there. I've experienced enough of that myself. But learning how to reconnect with your body, because we shut off our feelings in our physical body when we've been violated. Uh, and a lot of times, like for example, you can start weeping when you're doing a yoga posture because you're opening up. That's yoga, is opening up right down to the cellular level of every part of your body that's closed and guarded. You're very guarded. And so when you open that up in your safe place, it causes healing. You have to trust that where you're at, you can open up, and you have to allow yourself to weep. And it's called liquid, I call it liquid prayer, to finally let go of that pain that you've been carrying all your life. It's another wonderful kind of high. But I know that because I was violated as a child, that I tend to be, I think that's why I'm a loner, because, I don't trust people. When you've been hurt by your own parents that way, it's pretty hard to trust anybody else. And especially like if I'm in a swimming pool by myself, because I live in a 55 plus community, and I'll get up in the morning and go try to swim. And if a guy jumps in the pool, I'm like, oh, I'll go to the other side of the pool because I'm afraid. I feel that fear. I've got really, I know up here I've got nothing to be afraid of, but that fight or flight syndrome comes in that we get stuck in when, it's like panic. I'm like, oh, don't come over here and talk to me, please. So yeah, I mean, I feel for anybody that has been as a child, that should never happen to any child. And I really, unfortunately, the punishment for child molesters is not severe enough, in my opinion.
Nope.
And the fact that they're allowed to live within so many miles of a school, or maybe on the same street, pedophiles, I'm sorry, they need to be exterminated.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's sad that there's so many out there that are trying to normalize that now. Like it's
Yeah.
another sexual orientation or something. I'm sorry, it's not.
No, it's perversion, 100%. Anybody
100%.
that hurts a child like that does not deserve to live.
I think that's why I'm so overprotective when it comes to children, because I don't want them to have to go through the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote a song and I didn't release it until my stepfather and mother died. I did try to tell my mother, this might interest you. I was told by my counselor that you had to go through an intervention with a family to totally regain your self-worth.
Mhm.
So I got up the guts. I didn't want to do it because my mother had heart problems and I was more concerned for her health than mine. But my counselor urged me to have this intervention where the family lines up and you confront in love, in my case, the stepfather, and disclose the information for the sake of healing the family. Because these secrets, the family's broken when you have these kind of secrets, and everybody thinks everything's hunky dory, but I was the black sheep. Maybe you were too, Well, the intervention backfired and I was thrown out of the family for
Mm.
telling. My mother didn't believe me. So, in order for me to regain my sense of self-worth after they both passed away, I had written a song, Your Debt. It's called Your Debt, and you can find it on my album. Is it on? I think it's on the album Faith. But anyway, and I'm talking to my stepfather in this song. What makes you think in your mind the eyes of a child? Anyway, I'm talking to my stepfather because he molested me, and nobody in my family believed me. So I published this song instead. And the first time I tried to sing it publicly, I cried through the whole thing. People probably thought, what a nut job she is, you know? They didn't know the context of the song. I just got up there and sang it because I was desperate to get my own sense of self-worth. I just felt like I was worthless. And my mother always taught me to think that, you know, your job is how you qualify to be a valuable human being. And when I tried the job thing with the postmaster, I didn't feel valuable. I still didn't. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I spent a lot of my life trying to find my self-worth, and I just finally found it in the Torah and and yoga and meditation and music. And now my book, and I can actually help other people. So I hope somebody that's listening hears something that can help them.
Well, if somebody wants to buy your music, where do they go?
Good question. They can go to Deborah, Debra, Cohen, Cohen, music.com.
And what is your social media?
Social media, well, let's see, I've got, you know, you can look online anywhere and just type, you just have to spell my name right, because most people spell my name Deborah, and it's not 3 syllables, it's 2, Deborah, Debra. Or, you know, you can go to, let's see, the Amazon book is amazon.com/author/Deborah Cohen Music. Or you can go to my distributor, unitedmasters.com/Deborah Cohen Music.
Well, I'll make it easy for everyone, and I'll put the links in the description.
Oh, thank you, Kyle. Thank you. And by the way, why do they call you the Coyote?
That was a nickname that my aunt gave me when the day I was born. And I guess because I'm a Looney Tune, she called me Kylie Wiley Coyote. So,
Yes,
well, thank you, Deborah, for sharing with us and being on my show today.
yes, my pleasure, Kyle. And don't forget to eat your vegetables.
I'll try to remember that.
Thank
And
you for sharing.
And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network